The Friday Rugby Preview on Borders Rugby Radio with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to the Friday Rugby Preview, back after a week's break due to the weather. But all being well, we shouldn't have any issues for tomorrow. And on today's programme, we're going to hear from the Borders clubs and hear what the coaches have to say about their games in the Premiership, the National and East Leagues. There's also a big game on Sunday for the Kelso ladies, so we'll be looking ahead to that as well. Dale Clancy is with me to have a chat about the matches and give his thoughts on tomorrow's games. And let's start with our main commentary game on Borders Rugby Radio, our first visit to Pointer Park this season, and it's National 1, Kelso against Gala.
Yeah, and it's it's going to be a great game, and we haven't been to Pointer Park this season, as we say, and we're then going to be there pretty much in a long-term residency for a while. But that's due to the success that Kelso have had this season. They've put themselves in a really, really good position in the league. Gala, there was talk about a resurgence a few weeks ago, but obviously they're off the back of they've had a sticky kind of last few weeks with a change of coach, and the weather's probably hindered them as well. But this is a huge rung on the ladder for Kelso. This is a big game for them. It's a big game for Gala as well, so let's not take that away from it. But Kelso have promotion in their sights, and this is one of the kind of notches that they need to get on their bedpost before they crack on.
Well, let's hear from both clubs. Ewan Dodds for Gala, and first Kelso Director of Rugby, Neil Hinnigan.
The whole club's really looking forward to it. It's always a big day when we play a local rival, and this one obviously has its different pressures. We're top of the league, and Gala are sitting in fourth, and they've had a bit of an up and down season, but they're certainly capable of putting in a performance that can match us and could also beat us, because they are a really good team, good mixture of youth and experience. With Craig Dodds there kicking them forward. Ewan Dodds is back playing at the moment as well. They've got a good pack of forwards. They've got some threats out wide. Ben Gill's been having a good season. So we're well aware of what's going to be coming our way, and I think the added spice is that maybe a bit of a role reversal for last year when we were sitting fourth in the league and they were flying high at top, and we managed to turn them over at Pointer, and obviously that was detrimental towards the end of the season for winning the league. And I'm sure that Gala have all that in their thoughts as well, coming down to Pointer, that they can upset us, and they've got something to play for there, and a lot of pride, and it's just a real mouth-watering contest. And as far as selection goes, we're the same as we were to go to Highland last week, so there's no changes, same team, so settled.
We travel to Pointer Park this weekend under no illusions of how difficult a task is in front of us. Kelso will go into this game as deserved favourites after some excellent performances so far in the league, and after a close run encounter at Netherdale, we're looking to put right a few wrongs from that day. Again, unfortunately, we've suffered a few injuries over the last few weeks, and with the team still to be selected, it'll be a tough selection again. But we know whatever 15 we put out on the pitch, we're going to have to match Kelso physically in order to give us an opportunity in this game.
Well, 2 weeks ago, Gala lost at GHK, and that really was the final nail in the coffin for any hopes of promotion for the Maroons.
Yeah, I think it was probably done before that, but it's off the back of a lot of injuries, a lot of disharmony perhaps in the kind of the coaching setup that was there at the start of the season, and a little bit of a hangover from last year as well. They were so close to getting into the Premiership, which in terms of your recruitment and attracting players to the club and getting that club atmosphere going again, it would have been a completely different season. But now they're looking at trying to now put the pieces together in the jigsaw that's they've been scrambled a little for them. So the GHK results a few weeks ago will be disappointing for them, but as we've said before, I think it's more now about building, and it's really transitional for Gala to go again next year probably, but there's still a long way to go in the season.
Kelso didn't get to play Highland last week due to the frost, so that game's been bumped down to the 15th of April, so it could be that they've got to go up to Highland to win the title, which makes for a very interesting scenario. They would hope to have had it wrapped up by then, because it's not a place that they want to go. They don't like 3G pitches.
No, I think a lot of people have said that about Kelso, that they don't particularly like playing on that surface, but that's a long, long way away just now. I think the game this weekend against Gala, whatever way it goes, it's a border derby. And I know people always, it's the old cliche that anything can happen in a border derby, but Kelso have 3 really, really big games at home. They've got the first one here with Gala, then they've got Melrose and Ayr as well. 2 teams that are still well within the hunt. anything can happen, and I don't think home advantage is as big a thing when you're involved in teams like Ayr and Melrose as well, because they've been there, they've done it, they've still got a lot of the players that have that experience that, you know, it won't be as big a pressure for them. And sometimes it can turn on its head, but it's been such a long time since Kelso have had games of this magnitude at their club, and it's great to see. I think we look back at the Kelso Melrose game last season at Poynter Park in the Border League and also National 1. It was a double header. It was one of the best games, one of the best atmospheres I've been at in a long, long time. And I'm sure the three games that I've mentioned are going to be equally as big, but they need to get over the line against Gala first before they even start thinking about Highland.
Of course, we are having these problems now with the games being called off that we're up to April 22nd and, on the edge of May, and of course clashing with K7s as well. The 15th of April doesn't clash with the K7s tournament as yet, because obviously the Berwick one is likely to be on the Sunday. They're still to confirm when their Sevens date is going to be taking place. It could possibly be on the 15th. We'll just have to wait and see. But again, this is where the 10-team reconstruction is certainly going to help for the next season.
Yeah, it definitely will. I think it's been a common gripe of most clubs and players and committee members for a few years now. They've rejigged it and shuffled it about and tried to find something that really works. And hopefully this restructure for the 10-team leagues will be the answer to most of the things that really cause us some issues with the sevens. There's obviously the chat, the inter-district thing as well coming back, which has been released in the press about the 4-team inter-district championship as well. And that needs a place in the calendar. So it's not a matter of saying, yes, we're going to bring this back because it's, there's an appetite for it. It's where do you accommodate it? And where do you accommodate it when a team's got 4 cancelled games to play? So the 10-team league will help next year, but it's going to be a really interesting Kings of the Seven circuit to see what type of teams do turn up, because, there'll be a lot of 15s games still to complete.
So where do you think this inter-district tournament is going to fit in? Because obviously the South of Scotland have gone back, the Border League have gone back and said, look, that's not acceptable during the K7s. But where else do you put it?
I know. It's something that I don't have the answer for, because they chop and change. The only thing that's ever been pretty constant is the Kings of the Sevens. You've had some tournaments at the start of the year and then the rest in April, May time. Sometimes you had a lot more in April, May, and only 1 or 2 at the beginning of the season, but it's always a constant. But when do you put it, especially with Super 6 now? But the only thing is that there has to be an appetite for it, because if you've got the players that want to play Super 6, they're the players that want to be going on and striving for a professional contract. What does that leave the other players that served their time in club rugby, dedicated their lives to serving their clubs or themselves, moving about clubs? There is an appetite for it, but where do you fit it in? Is it midweek games that are going to be something that of more of a showcase? Friday night games? I don't know where it fits in, but it's just another set of games, another conflict from what we've already got. It's a difficult time to try and cram stuff in after the weather we've had this year, certainly.
Well, to be honest, I think they shouldn't even do it this year. I think they should leave it till, say, January or February of next season, and that would fit in quite nicely, particularly with the 10-team leagues. And I still say, start the Premiership, the National Leagues a couple of weeks earlier, finish by Christmas, job done.
Yeah, or look at the way that the Premiership is done and look to accommodate it after it's all finished, so that they've got something to work towards, and then you can then start getting the club. But that means your league would essentially have to be finished at the end of January, because the club internationals are often tied in with the Six Nations. And then there might be some players in National 1 that do get drafted up, but they should get drafted up on merit, so it shouldn't really impact them. But the Premiership probably needs looked at as a whole in terms of the way that they deliver that season. They might want to do away with the playoffs and just say, right, if you finish top of the league, then we go into inter-district, because it's then just another showpiece event. But again, it's up to Scottish Rugby, and I'm sure they'll get it right.
Well, just for the record, because a lot of people keep asking the K7s at the moment, what's confirmed, what's not, you can go to the K7's dedicated website at k7s.co.uk. At the moment, obviously, we've had Peebles, we've had Hoyk, and we've had Gala. Melrose is next, 8th of April. Berwick still to be confirmed. We think at the moment the 16th of April, Sunday, but that's not confirmed. Langham has been confirmed the 22nd of April. That's a Saturday. Kelso confirmed this week the 29th of April. Earlston will follow on the 30th of April. That's bank holiday weekend. Jed Forest to be confirmed, but likely to be the 13th of May. Normally that is the last one, but because of the coronation and the cup final in Scotland, Selkirk have moved theirs for one season only to the 20th of May, and that has been confirmed as a date now, all in conjunction with Jed Forest. I understand that there's been great communication between the two clubs. It's a one-off only for 2023, but Selkirk will end at the Kings of the Sevens on the 20th of May. So going back to Kelso against Gala, you'll be at Poynter Park. Scott Tomlinson in the commentary box with you. That one kicks off at 3 o'clock. It's our main featured game tomorrow, but not our only commentary game, because we're also covering Langham v Dalkeith, with Langham wanting just 1 point to secure the East League 2 title. More on that later in the show. But let's go into the Premiership. All our sides are playing away from home. Unbeaten Hawick travel to Heriots, and we hear now from Greens head coach Matty Douglas.
We're excited to get back into league action this week. I think the week off probably done us a world of good again. I think we had 2 tough fixtures, Mar, then Curry, 2 big performances, and we prepped well for travelling to Hawks, but look, the weather beat us to it, and we managed to get another weekend where we gave the players the weekend off, and we've been back in this week, and look, there's a real buzz around training. We've got good numbers, and touch wood injury wise we're keeping players fit. But look, Golden Acre this weekend will be probably a different challenge. It's always a firm pitch, and recently we've probably not played on them, and it'll be probably a different side of our game that we're probably going to have to look at. I can't see it being a soft pitch and ball under the jumper type of rugby, but I think we're at the stage where we're able to change our game. We've got a back line that's really ticking, and a forward pack that is mobile, a big forward pack, but we are able to get around the park. So going into this, in terms of our game plan, I think it's on us just to keep turning up. 3 games left, so if we win this weekend, we guarantee a home semi-final, so that's another target that we planned at the start of the season, and probably on us again to perform, get our attitude right, and individually, if we prep well, we've been good at bringing it collectively as a team. So the players know the challenge. Heriots have got better as the season went on, and they're a team that maybe are at the wrong end of the table, but on their day they can beat anybody. And they had a good win against Musselburgh a couple of weeks ago, and they really dug deep in that game. So it shows that they can battle. And Phil's a great coach. He's coached a lot of good sides, so I'm sure he'll have them ready to go for Saturday. Looking at kind of team news, not a lot of changes. Daniel Sudden misses out this weekend, so Sean Fairbairn comes back into the middle row. On the bench, Rory McLeod comes back in for Tom Hope, and Grant Hagan also comes onto the bench. He's not featured for a little while, so good to see him back in the squad. So I think it's another big game for us to try and keep performing and put some momentum together heading into what is a tough couple of weeks before the playoffs.
Heriots desperate for points. Hawick unbeaten. Bill McLaren Shield, of course, up for grabs once again. Lots of history between the clubs. Yeah, and it's another huge game for Hawick on their kind of journey to hopefully trying to snatch that Premiership crown back, something that they've not had in so many years. And Heriots are finding life pretty tough back in the Prem after last year, and they've had some good results, good performances. Obviously beating Edinburgh Accies as well was one of the big games for them, but I just feel the power that Hawick have is far too much. We've covered a couple of the games recently, Edinburgh Accies and the one against Curry. The 40-minute performance that they put in the first half is some of the best rugby that I've seen in the Premiership for a long time. I know obviously a lot of people were talking about the bridge between Super 6 and that Hawick could compete. There's perhaps an argument, but the quality that they've got in that squad is really, really good. So they'll be going to Golden Acre with a lot of confidence, and they'll be looking to try and keep their unbeaten performance going. But Heriots are a difficult team to play against. They like to play rugby. They're strong up front, and they've got some good rugby players, and obviously Craig Robertson as well, scoring a lot of tries. Well, Selkirk still unbeaten away from home, which is remarkable considering they've lost 5 at home this season and only 4 try bonuses. We'll discuss that after we've heard from head coach Scott White.
No qualms about it. It's going to be tough, and that we've got to be on it. I think obviously there's been a kind of wee bit. It's not really been all that joined up since Christmas and stuff. So there's kind of been we've put a huge focus on this week. We know the importance of it, and I think the message is simple. If we get beat this week, we'll not be in the top 4. That's obviously. Everybody's aware of that. Everybody knows where we stand. Obviously, Marv went 2 points in front of us, having beat Jed last week. So they're at home to Hawks. So we are obviously preparing that they'll get 5 points there against Hawks at home. So that would then be 7 points clear. So It's really important that the focus is all about us though, and obviously we spoke about before Christmas there in terms of the consistency over the 80 minutes. Now we've obviously performed fairly well away from home, so I'm hoping for much the same in terms of where we are, but obviously we're not having a game last week. It's probably not helped us any, so huge focus, must win game for us if we want to be in that top 4 at the end of the season. Team wise this week, front row be Kieran Thompson, James Bett, Bruce Riddle. Middle row will be Andrew Cochrane and Callum Turnbull. Back row will welcome back Ross Nixon and Andrew McComb at 8, and then Scott McClement will be at 7. So Monroe's obviously away to South Africa now, and in the back line, Ethan McVicker will get his first start of the season at 9, Aaron McComb at 10, Craig Jackson, Ryan Cottrell in the centres, Lachlan Ferguson, Josh Welsh on the wings, and Callum Anderson at full-back in a fairly settled back line. So yeah, look, we're looking forward to it. Everybody knows kind of what we need to do, so we've got a definite clear aim for 3:30 on Saturday.
They say stats don't lie, but as I mentioned before we played that clip from Scott White, 5 losses at home, none on the road, and the worst try-bonus count in the league. Now that's very unusual for a team on the edge of the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think Scott White's done a remarkable job after what's happened last season. Selkirk found things really, really tough last year, and he's managed to bring in some personnel, but the big thing that Selkirk have been able to do is they've relied heavily on the forwards, I think. The likes of James Head and Shafai up front as well, and those sort of Luke Petty as well. Those players have been the cornerstone in every game that they've done well in. When they lose some of those players, they lose that kind of bite, and they kind of get out muscled by some teams. Kind of evident in some of the games where those players that we've mentioned before have perhaps been withdrawn a bit early, and they've kind of fallen off slightly. So it's unfortunate, but sometimes they've kind of held them in games, and they've maybe just squeezed the life out of oppositions. They've not been scoring tries, but they've been getting wins, and wins are more important than the try bonus. Ultimately, it comes down to what your final point tally is at the end of the season, and if they're missing out on those, it's just unfortunate. But they've done a great job to get themselves into a position. It's just unfortunate that you look at that Musselburgh game now and think we would still be in the playoff positions if we didn't lose that game, which probably we should have won, but it comes down to their home form yet again. But this weekend's a chance for them to try and cling on to the coattails of Mar and make it a fight for that 4th place.
We must mention Zen Zhivarjak as well, if that's the correct pronunciation. Obviously going to be representing Poland. His country's going to get capped against, I think, Belgium and a few others in the European.
Yeah, if he's at Belgium, we might see another, ex-Selkirk player as well.
Indeed.
In the opposite team. So,
is it Godsmark?
Yeah, Godsmark. So, yeah, he's been a great addition to Selkirk. He's been, kind of one of the standout front rows alongside Luke Petty and Riddle as well. Has played well in the front row, I think. They've done well, and it's great to see these players get international honours, and it just shows the game is growing a little bit, and Scottish rugby is perhaps providing that platform for top level quality rugby for second tier nations to develop their players, and the likes of Shivajak, who's come over here and playing his rugby for Selkirk and get international honours. It's great, and it's also great on social media for the club to be celebrating it as well.
Now Jed Forest, they can relax as far as relegation issues are concerned, but they've still got a target to finish as high as possible in the league. They go to Musselburgh, which isn't a happy hunting ground for them, but they do have the chance to lump more misery on the men from Stony Hill, who are at the foot of the table despite a good win at GHA last weekend. Here's head coach Andrew Brown.
We spoke a lot on Tuesday about the importance of sort of getting back on the bus and getting the consistency back in our game, which was lacking from last week. We're also looking forward to the game in hand. It's going to be a tough challenge, and I understand that Jed they've never really performed away at Musselburgh, so that's the first challenge to them is to get on the bus and to put a full 80 minutes in against this Musselburgh team. It's crucial for them to perform, so we can't go into it with any complacency. We're looking at the next few weeks. The mood in camp is that we want to finish strong. We want to close these last 2 league games out. We want to finish with more points, and we want to finish, in this mid-table. And we also want to get some momentum back so we can go into the cup game against Hawick. Challenge them, every time you sort of take the field, you want to be playing the best possible team that they have available. We don't want any excuses at the end of the day. So hopefully we can get back on the field and perform again this weekend. Paulo Ferreira's back available this weekend. having missed last weekend's game. And Dan Wardrop is back as well. He's been away skiing for a couple of weeks, so he's back available. Matthew Atkinson also is available this weekend. So definitely strengthening the pack with those three lads available. As for, again, luckily the back line is settled again with there's Lewis Walker's coming back to fitness. He got 40 minutes last week, so hopefully we get game time for him again this week. And Rory Marshall's coming back into fitness as well. Haven't missed a few weeks out with his with injury, so definitely strengthening the squad this week, and we're definitely looking to go away from home and get a result.
Jed coach Andrew Brown. Now, Jed certainly scored lots of points this season, but have leaked plenty too. Musselburgh giving this one a real go to stay up. They, of course, won at GHA last week, so they're hanging on by their fingernails. But it's going to be a good battle, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's one of those games that for Jed, the gloves are off, and that's the type of rugby that I feel Jed love playing. They like to chuck the ball about, they like to play relaxed rugby and throw caution to the wind, and this is one of the games for them which they can do. It might fall into the hands of Musselburgh because they've obviously on the back of a good win, they'll be looking to kind of build a little bit of momentum, the momentum that they never got when they got that win against Selkirk, because they followed that up with a heavy defeat. So they'll be wanting to go again and take on Jed. And Jed are pretty comfortable in knowing that they're not going to go down now, so they can do what they want. I think Andrew Brown's done a cracking job at Jed this season. For a leader or a coach to come into a club that's not his club, remember, but to come in and immerse himself in it and get the buy-in from everybody, you can see the difference that he's had. So, hats off. It's not been much of a successful season in terms of border league or league position, but he's stabilised that squad, and that is the platform that they can then launch off next year.
Well, the Premiership games tomorrow. Edinburgh Accies at home to Selkirk, GHA v Curry, Heriots Blues against Hawick, Mar against Glasgow Hawks, and Musselburgh against Jed Forest. Every one of them kicking off at 2 o'clock. Now, we heard earlier from Kelso and Gala in National 1. Let's put the focus on Melrose, who travel to GHK, which is where Gala slipped up in their last match a couple of weeks ago. We can hear now from Melrose head coach Bert Grigg.
Obviously the last time out they had a pretty good result at home to Gala, which I'm sure has given them a bit of confidence playing border sides up there, and they've got a bit of experience in their team with some ex-Ayr players and Ayrshire Bulls players that certainly lead their team round the paddock, but I still think there's opportunities for us to get the better of them in certain areas, like what we did at the Green Yards at the start of the season. Relatively unchanged team for us for the first time in a very long time from last weekend, the same starting 15. And then we welcome Angus Runciman after his broken jaw against Kelso. He returns to the bench to provide us with that little bit extra experience off the bench, which is exciting to see. So, looking forward to the trip up to GHK and what I'm sure will be an entertaining game.
Potential banana skin for Melrose?
Yeah, it's a big game for them again. I know it's a cliche to say it's a big game, but to stay in the hunt and make that game against Kelso in a few weeks' time relevant, they need to win this, because they don't want to go to Poynter Park and hope to just spoil Kelso's party. They want to try and get themselves back into this title race. So it's a difficult game. GHK, obviously, they got promoted from National 2 last year. I believe Peter Wright's still there. They've got a lot of influence with. They've got good tie-in with Glasgow Warriors and some ex-pros and internationals that are coaching and trying to get into the game that way as well. So it's a difficult game for Melrose, but the way that they have been playing, they've managed to really plug the gaps from the two Canadians which have left. They were brilliant players, but you don't really see the gap too much when they've left. They were class, they were quality operators, but Melrose have done well to stay in the hunt, but they need to win this game on the road and try and stay in the coattails and stay in the race for Ayr and Kelso.
6 games in National 1, Aberdeen Grammar against Ayr, Biggar against Stirling County, and Dundee against Watsonians, all 2 o'clock kickoffs, and then 3 o'clock kickoffs, GHK v Melrose, Highland and Stuart's Melville, and of course the big one, the Kelso versus Gala. That's a 3 o'clock kickoff as well. In National 2, it's a derby between Peebles at home to Berwick. Berwick haven't been the best travellers this season. Defeats at the 2 bottom clubs didn't help their cause either, and they're stuck in a battle for survival at the moment in 6th place, with 5 teams going down. We'll hear from Colin Young shortly with Berwick's perspective, but first, Peebles head coach Ian Chisholm.
Peebles are going to have a real focused effort this weekend to stop this game against Berwick, turn it into an arm wrestle. I'm not sure we want to go down that route with them. I think we understand their strengths. We understand the type of game that they're trying to play. We know they're in and around those relegation spots, so they'll be desperate. They've got a lot to play for while the league is gone from us. We're essentially looking at building to next year and just getting through games for the rest of the season. We've been forced into some changes that we didn't really want to make, but then at the same time they excite me. So looking at Frey McKeever at 13, Jack Harrison moves back to his natural position of 9. He's played at quite a high level down there. I think he played for England Counties, if I'm right. But for us, he's too good a defender and he's too good on the ball to just be watching the game go by as you do when you're at 9. So, but this weekend he sees himself at 9. A reason for that is we need to do a better job of managing our half and managing our 22 and looking at how we get out of there. And Jack's a player that just takes control of the situation, and he can relieve a lot of pressure from us via box kicks, whether that's off the park or high contestables. We're pretty excited for him to be there. And with Jack moving into there, Donald Anderson will move to stand off, and I'll be pushed out 1 into inside centre. Our pack, it's similar to what we had last week. Willie Aitken, he's doing a great job at nearly 40-year-old. John Napier and John Gray make up the front row. Kenny Clyde, who I thought was outstanding last weekend. He brought a lot of energy and he brought a lot of physicality. Hopefully we'll see that for the full game on Saturday. And he partners Kenny in the second row. With us losing Jay Coltman last weekend, we're down a line-out jumper, so Rob Harrison moves from the midfield into the back row. Again, that's his natural position. He moves into Murdo Anderson's spot, who's just he's had a couple of head knocks in training and in games over the last couple of weeks, and he's not concussed as such, but we're just taking precaution. I think when it happens week after week, then we do need to put the player first, and Murdo understands that as well. Partner and Rob in the back row, Finlay Collins at 7, and Finlay Sinclair returns to the squad. I'll just run through the backs for you here. It's Jack Harrison, Donald Anderson, Buster Davidson on the wing, Ian Chisholm and Frey McKeever in the centres. James Dow and Dave Collins make up the back 3 there as well. On the bench, Neil Hogarth returns to the squad after a shoulder injury. Ewan Jackson, he'll keep his place on the bench. He does bring a lot of energy off the bench, and he's just a great bloke to have around the squad. He's really positive and he's really encouraging. And when you get into that sort of dark place where your thoughts just turn to negativity, he's someone that speaks a lot of sense, and he gets positive outcomes for us. And while I say that this is the team that we've got planned for the weekend, things might change, but looking forward to returning to the Gates on Saturday. We know that it's going to be a really tough game. Colin and Paul down at Berwick, they play a good brand of rugby, and I've got a lot of time for how they attack the edges, especially through the likes of Rory Hindhaugh and James Thompson. They're 10. Webster makes them tick as well, and look, we just need to make sure that we can control the tempo of the game, whether that's through increasing the tempo or stripping that tempo back. And then one of our forwards coaches, Graham Patterson, former Musselburgh coach, he talks about the pressure tap. So understanding when we can turn the pressure up and turn the pressure down. If we're able to get a result in this game, then we're definitely safe. And that seems really strange saying that when we're sitting in 4th place and a couple of points off 3rd. It is what it is at the moment with 5 teams going down from our league, and we need to make sure that the club are still in National 2 first, and then from there we'll look to innovate, give youngsters a chance.
Much the same squad as what we was against Falkirk. Cammy Rogerson, the only one that's out just due to concussion protocol, so he misses this weekend. So we will be looking to put what we got wrong against Falkirk. Obviously the conditions at Falkirk were horrific, but it's the same for 2 teams, not just one. I felt they played the conditions better, where they used the wind to their advantage in the first half and got a bit of a lead on us, and we tried to claw back, but we just ran out of time. So yeah, this weekend hopefully a nice calm day at Peebles, settled, where we can play an open, attractive game of rugby. it'll be an exciting weekend at Peebles.
Colin Young, of course, from Berwick, good lad, and Ian Chisholm before that. And Berwick, of course, not good travellers, great at home, but this is a derby. They'll surely be up for this one. They have to be up for this one.
Yeah, and I think that, you can hear both of those coaches talk, and they know it's an important game. Peebles are still thinking about relegation because of the restructure of the leagues, and from the kind of heights that they were at the beginning of the season, looking towards promotion, they've fallen away. They've come unstuck. And even the game that we watched, the game that I was watching little bits of it against Newton Stuart because it was streamed, and it was just a really scrappy, windy affair. They just never looked in the fight, and they struggled against them. And I just think that's been the story of people's season. They've been able to put some really good rugby together because they've got an attractive brand of rugby. But when they do come against these teams that sometimes have a little bit more muscle and are a little bit more direct, they do struggle against. And that's the danger against Berwick, because they do have some big ball carriers. They've got a nice brand and a nice mix of rugby. So it's going to be an interesting tie, because Berwick, they don't travel well, but Peebles isn't a bad travel for them, and they've come up to the Gates before and made a good fist of it. I remember playing many games against Berwick when we were kind of in between Prem 2, Prem 3 type thing, and there were always difficult games, but it's a big game for both clubs to make sure that they can try and consolidate their position.
Well, in East League 1, bottom club Duns are away at Broughton, while in East 2, Langham can become champions if they get 1 point at home to Dalkeith, who are the only other side who can win the title mathematically. It's unlikely, but that is possible. Now, it's our other featured commentary game tomorrow on the show, which starts at 1:30. The Langham v Dalkeith game will be covered by Robin Purdy and Hugh Brown, but let's hear from Captain Nathan Smith, who sadly won't get to play in the game tomorrow.
A win for us sees us wrap up the league win with a game to go, so it's a bit of a cup final for us this weekend. Dalkeith, as we know from earlier in the season, are a massive size, physical, and they look to play the game to their strengths and keep everything under control. When we went up there earlier in the season, it was a dogged and horrible game to play, and not much to our style of running rugby. It was a game for the forwards, like I said, very physical, and I can't imagine that their style will have changed very much, so we're ready for that. We've spoken this week much about keeping away from that massive pack of theirs, shifting them about and bringing it down to fitness. We know we're not as big, but we know our strengths, and we'll be looking to use those to try and break that massive wall that they have. So I look forward to seeing the boys try and break through that. Team-wise, we're full go with everybody. Unfortunately, on Monday at training, I managed to go over on my ankle, and after being in hospital Tuesday, I've broken my ankle and done a fair bit of damage in there. So unfortunately, my season's come to a close early, which is devastating. But that's the game, I suppose. Can happen at any point, but it just so happens that it's happened at this point for me. So I'll be there watching, and I've every belief that the squad that we have, and after the season we've had and the rugby that I've seen us play, that everybody there is capable of doing the job to beat this team. So it's gutting for me, but it's good that I have this team to watch, and I know that this team can do it. So we are all looking forward to Saturday. I was at training with the lads last night, and everyone's looking really sharp, and you wouldn't even notice I wasn't there, really. They've all just fell into place as boys stepping up, and I can really feel the buzz for Saturday, so I look forward to it.
I really feel for him, Nathan. I mean, he does sound a bit depressed there, and you can understand why. Broken ankle on Monday ahead of the big game.
Yeah, he was almost convincing there when he said that he was looking forward to it. He didn't sound it, but you can probably forgive him for that, because an injury at this point after the last 2 seasons, and Nathan has been a kind of stalwart for Langham over the last few years, a really talented player, and he's going to be a miss. But you would hope that the kind of work he's put in beforehand will be appreciated by the team, and they can then get it over the line, because just 1 point is all they need to make sure that they can get that crown, and then I'm sure they'll all enjoy it and have a good weekend. But it's just unfortunate the game against Lundin never went ahead. We couldn't cover it because of the weather, because it would have been a great fitting occasion to have a border derby for that sort of game. But just as the way things pan out, Langham have to get over the line against Dalkeith and get the 1 point?
It won't be easy, of course. Langham only won the away game against Dalkeith by 4 points earlier in the season, but they certainly deserve the title for what they've done this season. Also in East League 2 are Hoyt Lindeen, who've come very close to getting a win this season. Haven't quite made it yet, but they're at home for their final home match, in fact, at Volunteer Park tomorrow. It's against Kirstophen, and here's Gary Alexander.
It's hard to believe that this Saturday's home game against Kirstophen is actually our last scheduled home game of the season, but we'll give it a go to get that first win that I keep speaking about. We weren't far away last time up against Dunbar. That was back on the 7th of January. We were behind most of the game, but the boys did really well to come back, took the lead 28-27, but we then lost another score, and then although we were absolutely camped on the Dunbar line at the end of the game, chance after chance, we just couldn't get over, get that score. Well, having said that, Jordan White was over the line, looked like he was got a score, but got held up, and that was that. Missed a week with being no game because of the odd number of teams in the league, and then last week against Langham was off, obviously with the frozen pitch, so we'll end up with 3 away games to end the season. Kirstophen, gave them a good go, a good game up at Union Park earlier in the season, but it was really tough, really physical, so I'm sure it'll be much the same again, but hopefully on our own patch and taking what we can out of the game against Dunbar. We're hopeful we can maybe get that first win, and hopefully our skipper Dave Montgomery will be back. He's a really influential player who's had a couple of injuries this season, so he's missed a lot of games, and he's been a big miss for us. So hopefully with Dave back and the performance against Dunbar, we might just finally get that first win.
And we certainly wish them well. It just shows you, doesn't it? Every team has something to play for. That is their big match tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. And, sometimes we've spoken about it time and time again on this, as the, years gone by, sometimes we hit this time of the season, there's a whole clutch of clubs that are, just really farting into the wind. They're not really playing for anything. But now it's good to see there's so many teams with still a lot of rugby to play for. And Lindeen are no different. They want to get that win. They want to start getting, a little bit of a feel-good factor at the club. But yeah, hopefully they get that this weekend.
And he mentioned there about the odd numbers of the teams, and of course we found that in the leagues, in East League 1, 2 and 3, and although Hoyt Lindeen look as if they would be relegated normally, we were hearing kind of word that there could well be just 2 divisions next year, which would help Hoyt Lindeen, of course, and other clubs as well, and hopefully they'd have an even number of teams.
Yeah, there's so many kind of spinning plates to that as well, because not only would it would probably make it a little bit more clear for the clubs to they know they're in the regional leagues and you're up or you're down, and that's your level and that's where the clubs are, but there might be a wider disparity between the teams at the top and the bottom of one division. But I think that it would be a sensible approach to try and rejig what is in the East Leagues. It might breathe a little bit of life back into it as well, and even attract some people back to rugby clubs to play again if they know that they're getting a well structured, well thought out season, because sometimes it feels like a bit of an afterthought, which is unfortunate. But I think it's just they're probably the worst off clubs after in the last few decades, after everything's changed in rugby. I think the kind of regional beating hearts of communities in these clubs, like of your Earlstons and your Lindeens with a lot of history, Langham, they've been cast aside slightly, and hopefully that would be something that might benefit them all.
Well, let's go into East League 3 and the derby between Hoyt Quinn, still unbeaten in the league, and Earlston, who have yet to record a win. You'll hear from Earlston's Aaron Patterson in a second, but first skipper of Quinn's, and that's Adam Hall.
Yeah, we're looking forward to welcoming Earlston to Wilton Lodge Park this weekend. It'll be the second time they've visited and the 4th time we'll play them in total this season, so we're hoping to make it 4 out of 4. It's a common theme for us this season that we make a lot of changes. Couple of unavailabilities in the forward pack. Our tight head prop Craig Richardson's gone on holiday, and Scott Anderson, who's been a regular in the forward pack this year, is unavailable, but we've got Stephen Mabin coming back in, which is a real positive. In the backs, experienced halfbacks Bruce Campbell and Gav Douglas are both struggling with injuries, so we're hoping to give them a few weeks off and welcome them back for the Edinburgh Northern game in a few weeks' time. At least 20 to choose from. It seems we've got a decent player pool this season of around 30-35 people to choose from, so when you've got 5-10 people unavailable every week, we still manage to get that strong side out to play particularly at home. So we're looking forward to the game and hope for another bonus point victory.
Hoyt Quinns this weekend. It's going to be a tough day at the office, I think. Hoyt Quinns are a good team. They've proven that with the results they've got so far this season. Past 2 times we played them, they've won the games very convincingly. That doesn't mean we're going to go out there and lay down though. We're going to go out there and give it our best. So we're going to go after the things that we know we can do well, and we're going to see how it turns out. They're a cracking team, and I have no doubt that they most likely will win this league, but that doesn't make them unbeatable. So we're going to go into this with the same mindset that we do every week, a good one, and everybody's going to give 100%, and I have no doubt that if we do that, it'll be a good game, and some good rugby will be played.
Well, also in East League 3, Gala YM take on Edinburgh Northern, who are top of the table. That's on the road for them, and we caught up with YM player coach Stuart Walker.
Excited this weekend away to Edinburgh Northern. It's going to be difficult. They're top of the league. They've only lost 1 game this season. We had a really close match with them last time. It was the day we had our Ladies' Day, and we could have pushed at the end to win and just kind of came up short. So hopeful that we can repeat that performance and build on the last 2 matches that we've played. Our win against Eddleston was a really good performance, and we just want to build on that this weekend and hopefully keep getting our way back up that league again.
Stuart Walker, Gala YM's player coach. We wish them luck at Edinburgh Northern. Now on Sunday, Kelso Ladies host Dundee Valkyries in the playoff final of the Women's Midland Caledonia East Division 1. Both topped their conferences, with Dundee unbeaten and Kelso only losing 1 game by a single point to Christophin on the road. So it's set up nicely to be a bit of a cracker. Kelso Ladies captain is Donna Borthwick.
And we're really looking forward to getting out there and giving it our best. We played Dundee Valkyries a few years ago, but they've had a lot of new players recently, and they've also got a seconds team that are very good. But we've been training really hard this week. We've got a really strong team this week. We've got 22 players available, so that's a full squad and full bench. So we are looking good for this weekend. We've been working hard this week on getting all the backs and forwards together and really showing our strength in the forward pack that we have, because we have really strong forwards in our pack. So we've got Lee Johnston, and we've got Nicola Turnbull as hooker, and we've got Jane Jackson as prop as well. So they're really strong players, and we're looking forward to seeing what they can do. And they do bring a lot to our game, a lot of power and a lot of strength. We also have a lot of speedy backs in our team, and we're really getting together now, because at the start of the season we were quite a new team. We were getting used to how each other plays, and we're getting used to being where everybody wanted us to be. But now that we're kind of in a little bit of a flow, it's good. So we're looking forward to putting it all together on Sunday and hopefully coming away with a win. But even if we don't win, to come second place from where we were in the summer is a massive achievement, because in the summer we hardly had any players, and because of COVID we were really affected, and we've had a new change in our whole leadership team, except for the captain's been the same. So for us to even just come second and to reach a final is an amazing achievement for us, and the club's been really supportive of us. We've had the backing of them from the start of this season, and we've worked really hard on our culture again this season, because the coaches, Ailey and Alan, said from the start that they just wanted Kelso Ladies to enjoy playing rugby again, because of how the last season ended and because of COVID kind of put it down on everything. They just wanted to get back to us enjoying being around each other and enjoying playing rugby, and winning sort of came second, but it's been an absolute bonus to be able to reach the final. So we are really proud of where we've came, and as a captain I'm really proud of our team for where we are now, because we've all pushed through. There's some nights we've been out there in the absolute freezing cold, and at the start of the summer and when it was warmer, but even like then we had sometimes on a Friday we would only have like 5 or 6 people turning up, and those ladies are the ones that have stuck it in and have put their heads down and just got on with it. And we've recruited really hard, and they've really done us proud this year. Every single player that steps on that pitch and puts on the Kelso shirt does it because they love rugby. They really want to help each other improve, and we do it for the girls as well that are coming along, because they'll be our mascots on Sunday, and our ball girls also. So we have our reasons why we do this, and we always remember that when we step on the pitch on Sunday, and especially this Sunday when we've came so far, and we really couldn't have done it without the help of the leadership team. So that's Ailey and Alan as coaches, and Ian Anderson as our director of rugby, and we've got Steph and Alison there as well in the background, like just plugging away for the ladies. And the president is totally behind us, and he regularly meets with us, and we are really lucky for what we've got, because we've seen recently in the news about Liberton, and we played for them in the Cup last year, and we noticed how lucky we actually are at Kelso to have the support of the majority of the people in our club, and the committee are always backing us and always asking how we're getting on. We've got Aaron that always comes and runs the line for us, and we've got people that come down and just give us massages and run the bag for us, and we've got Pat that cooks our tea, and Alexa behind the bar that always opens it up so we can socialise, and we are really lucky at Kelso. So this Sunday we are really looking forward to getting out there and showing what we've got, and showing how much we've improved as a team and how much we've came together. After this week we'll move on to compete in the Cup, so we are taking part in the Shield, so that's split into two, and it's home and away games. Some of them are a wee bit further, so there's a wee bit more travelling involved, but we're glad that we've finally got a team to play this year, because last year we didn't have enough players to play in it. But to represent Kelso again this year, it's a big achievement, and it speaks volumes for where we're moving as a club, and hopefully where women's rugby's moving in the Borders, because there is a lot more places coming available. There's clubs in Gala and Berwick, so it's good that it's moving along, and we are really lucky at Kelso. So we look forward to the Shield games, Cup games again, and competing more against Nat 1 teams. But we'll see what this weekend brings, and we hope to have a big crowd down there at Poinder Park. Kick-off is at 1:30 this time instead of 2, so it's a wee bit earlier for people to come down, but we're hoping to see everybody there coming along and cheering Kelso ladies.
Great stuff. 1:30 kick-off, as she mentioned. Kelso ladies have done really, really well this season.
Yeah, you hear it from Donna there, and it's great to hear her speak so highly of where they've kind of went as a club, and especially in the light of what's went on in the press this week with other rugby clubs, and not just Liberton, by the way. Obviously you're looking at the Welsh Rugby Union as well, and that is it's not just about the fact that it's a women's club, but she's very articulate, and she speaks highly of our teammates and the club, which is really positive from Kelso. And we've spoken about Kelso as a whole, over the last few months, is how well they're doing, striving towards success on the field, and obviously getting it right off the field as well. So for Kelso ladies to be able to be playing in a final, a competitive fixture, it's great for the club.
And as she mentioned, progress for women's rugby in the area happening elsewhere, Gala and Berwick, particularly moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and with these things, there has to be an appetite for it. There has to be a demand for players to play the game. That's what the clubs then provide for the region. So there must be a demand for it. There's a lot more young girls want to play rugby in the schools. It's becoming a lot more inclusive at the schools as well. It's not just full focus on male rugby and boy participation. There's a lot of participation with young females as well, and they need the platform to go on to and look to play. You can see in the Borders, we've got a lot of internationals already. We've got a lot of success in rugby so far, and that's what the clubs are looking to trying to put on. So it's good to see Gala and Berwick doing well. Kelso ladies leading the charge as well, but I'm sure it'll just grow and grow if there's more of an appetite.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to Sunday as well. We'll certainly be covering that match. We'll have a camera down there as well, so expect some coverage of Kelso ladies against Dundee Valkyries and the Women's Caledonia Midland East 1 final at Poinder Park at 1:30 on Sunday. But that's just about it for today. Another packed programme. Don't forget, tomorrow, 3.5 hours of live rugby for you tomorrow, including live commentary from Langham against Dalkeith. Can Langham get that East League 2 title? And also, we're at the big National 1 clash between Kelso and Gala. That's all happening on Borders Rugby Radio, which you can tune in directly from our website at bordersrugby.net from 1:30 tomorrow. Do join us if you can, but from Dale and me, for now, bye-bye.